Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and joining me again here, 2 videos in a row on my channel, I think. It's going to be Veiled Shot, and we've got a lot to talk about here in this one, because we've experienced both sides fully, the Shadows, the Immortals, and with Diablo Immortal just recently hitting 90 days old, we feel like the game is a little bit at a crossroads right now and settling into what it's going to be, so we're just going to do like a state of the game discussion and talk about how we feel about some different topics going on in Diablo Immortal, so let's get into it. Alrighty, what's up, Veiled? How you doing today? Good to see you.
Doing pretty well. Ship farming, literally as always, so we're good.
So, are you in the ship right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So, how do you feel about your general thoughts? Because this is our first time losing Immortals. We won Immortals 6-7 weeks ago, and then we lost it on the 7th week. So we were able to have a 6-week reign. What are your kind of general thoughts on that? Are you happy about that, and kind of all that?
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like the soft cap of the Immortal reigns, right? Is that week when they get to Reckoning 3, they got the 3 wins, and they got such a big boost in stats. You end up getting in the fight, they have like 15% extra damage and defense, and they only have to win 3. So by that point, you've lost so many players from attrition just because people quit the game, they may move on, and it's 6 weeks, and you can't really recruit anybody else. And then boom. That 6th week, you have to defend and win 8 battles, so you need at least 64 strong players. Yeah, it's tough. So I think that's kind of like the soft cap for a lot of reigns, unless you got some major whales.
Yep, I think most reigns are gonna be 5 weeks, if I had to guess. And then a short reign will be less than 5 weeks, and a long reign will be longer than 5 weeks. We were able to hit 6. 7's realistic, but like you said, you got to have an insanely organized and strong team. So yeah, I'm happy with how it went. And now we go back to the Shadows, and I know you and me kind of being in the inside of one of the bigger Diablo Immortal communities, have an interesting perspective on kind of what is going on maybe right now, maybe in terms of like how many people are quitting and how excited people are to play. And we're not here to rage or complain or whine. We're just gonna kind of talk candidly about everything that's going on right now in the game. And yeah, what are you thinking in terms of the community aspect? You feeling good about where everything's at right now and the future and everything, or kind of where's your headspace at?
So here's what I'll say. I'll start off with some of the good here. First off, I think that the casual player, the people that might download this game, and new players that are coming in, they see this game on the App Store that's free, or they go to the BattleNet, they just want to try it out. Those types of players are actually in a really good spot right now because of the way the server Paragon works. They actually have so much progression, and it's going to be very quick. If you compare this to like Diablo 3, their seasons are 3 months long. That's basically how long you have to play this game when you first start out, because you're going to be shooting through Paragon levels, you're going to be shooting through combat ratings, getting so much progression. It's actually worth grinding it out. Now, here's where it comes, kind of like, I guess you could say, the stale point of the game. For those players, including, us two that have been playing since day one, we're at the point where we've basically been at the front edge of all the new stuff coming out. And so now the last thing that's basically coming out in terms of big content is Hell 5. And really all that Hell 5 unlocks is more combat rating, right? When we got Hell 4, we got 6-piece set items, which was huge. Hell 5, you're just getting more combat rating. And so for a lot of people, it's like, well, that doesn't really improve my gameplay experience or anything like that. It's just, progressing for a minor gain. And so I think that's where a lot of people are kind of sick of the kind of gameplay loop right now. They're going to go run in a circle. They're going to go ship farm. They may take a break, run a few dungeons. But then as soon as you get all your set pieces, you don't need to run any more dungeons. And then they go back and open world farm for more combat rating. And they don't really have any place to use it. There's no real challenging game mode besides challenge rifts. And that's just hard combat rating gapped. So you basically you can beat it or you can't. There isn't really a crazy amount of, things you can do to push up further.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. How do you feel about the state of servers and the right of exile? Like the Shadows versus the Immortals. Now that we've been able to experience both sides of it.
So I'll say it's probably some of the most fun gameplay in the game. Like defending the vault, the system is poor, but the actual 30 seconds that you spend in your fights is actually kind of fun. As well as the Rite of Exile, coordinated battlegrounds are actually pretty fun as well. And if they were more rewarding, I would absolutely do it all the time. But there's a little bit of an issue, I think, with the whole system is that it's really heavily reliant on, realistically, you need at least 80 dedicated shadows. And more often than not, you're going to need 800 because you need like the top 10 clans nice and full. And you're going to need them to push the shadow rank so that you can get to that reckoning quicker. And then for the Rite of Exile and for the Immortals, you're going to need at least, 250 strong members to push your Rite of Exile reign. And so you need at least 1,100 players on your server for it to be a real nice and well-oiled machine. Problem is that usually you're not going to find that. And then what ends up happening here is over the course of a period of time, the people who are dropping $50,000 to get their 5-6K residents, 7K residents, or whatever it is, they're basically, wealth begets wealth. They're going to get more players that are the whales because they all want to be on the whale squad. And then it becomes like really just, okay, the whales win, and then the next people who take it, well, the second, biggest spenders are going to win, and then it just kind of goes back and forth. But the whales will always win. So there's some advantages to this, game where you got a lot of players working together and trying to take down the Immortals. But it could also be a very toxic system, and it could also be very non-competitive, where you just have one group that just are massive whales, and they can just do whatever they want because they spent more than everyone else.
Yeah, it really kind of snowballs because, once like the 5 biggest spenders get together, no other clan can really recruit whales because they want to play with the other whales. So like it's like, what even is the answer to make that not a thing? Because if they don't make spending and resonance mean something, the game's not going to make money and people aren't going to want to spend. And so if they just, I don't know what the answer is to kind of stop that system. You'd almost have to put like a resonance cap on each clan or something. But like I don't get how you even spread the strength out.
Yeah, you could do something cool. I was thinking about this. Obviously, they'd never do this, but you go into battlegrounds. You're setting up your 10 teams. Each team can only have, I don't know, let's say max 10,000 resonance, and you have to work within those constraints. Like, do you want to bring a heavy whale and then a couple of free to plays? Do you want to bring in like a squad of 2K resonance? Something like that would be very fun and a lot more strategic. But honestly, I don't really think there is a solution. Like, I think this is literally the intended gameplay for Blizzard, which is, it's hard to say if this is what they want, which I'm fairly confident that is the case. Then, you're just going to have to work within that, I guess. You play, and if there's someone or a clan that's going to be mega whales, you do your best. And then, we're not going to drop $500,000 on our clan or like, I'm not going to do it for my own character. That's just ridiculous for me, at least. And so, we can't really compete in that sense. But, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only realistic solution is to have a way where people can actually grind gem upgrades and resonance. So, like a system where the whales can do it quicker and easier. But the grinders have a path to at least try and compete. Without that, you're right, that there is no answer. I do think a system like that, where you cap resonance on each team, would be a lot of fun. There would be a lot of strategy in who goes where and building different teams. But you're right, that'll never happen. So I think they have to provide an avenue. I don't know how they do it. Introduce a new dungeon that drops like legendary crests or something. I don't know how they do it, but there needs to be a system in place where people can actually grind resonance.
Yeah, and I think that they went the route where, if you compare it to other mobile games like, Raid Shadow Legends, Summoner's War, like previous gacha games, right? You definitely have that system where within a year, your free-to-play players in Raid, they're basically end game, and they could do most of the things in the game, assuming they're not like terribly unlucky. But even then, they're going to do relatively well. In this game, in a year from now, the free to play may have, instead of 700 residents, which they do now, maybe 1,000. And then you're talking against whales, which are like 5-6K. That doesn't mean anything. So like, I don't think they need to have it this much of a disparity. Like, I think that their money is well spent, you could say, if you're talking about like in the context of a mobile game, without them being absolutely dominant like they are. I think that they actually get more value, like the spenders at least, by having a growing and competitive community. Because I mean, even on our server, we had a bunch of people complaining because they didn't get to fight anyone in our Rite of Exile because we didn't have the players to go and put them up against the enemies. And so they were like, wait, we didn't get to do anything. Like, we just ran in and it ended. And so it's like, yeah, they spent a bunch to be, strong, and they don't even get to do that. So I think that even the whales don't even like this system just because of that exact thing. People are leaving the game because they can't really compete in that sense. So definitely some sort of progression, or even another progression system, perhaps, something that closes the gap a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said from the start that, obviously we live in the real world and a game has to make money or it's not going to exist. So you have to have whales in a free-to-play game. It's just a fact of life or the game won't exist. But whales aren't going to want to run around a server listening to crickets when there's just 5 whales. Like, you gotta have players to compete against and have the incentive to spend. So they do have to throw a bone at the grinders and at the community. And I think, what would be a cool system where you could actually grind resonance? Like, I don't even know. Like, I guess you could hyper buff rare crests to make them worth something. You could have dungeons with a chance to like drop gem power. Like, what would even be a cool system to close that gap?
I think that the way they handle this is like, I don't think that they should necessarily they should double down on what makes Diablo Immortal unique. And what makes Diablo Immortal unique in its genre is that it's an MMO, right? You're jumping in, you're playing with your friends, and you don't need to party up to see them around the world. And so what they should do is they should add new zones, first off, which they've already said that they're going to do, which is perfect. And then they should rework all the zone events to where if you are at the zone event and you beat it, they drop 3 legendary crests. And so let's say you could do, I don't know, like 1 or 2 a day. Then you're getting, 3 to 6 legendary crests a day or something like that. Maybe that's too many, or maybe you go 1 or something, but something with like, you get a bunch of people together, the events scale, the more people are there, the more legendary crests you drop, something like that, something cool that engages the whole server and everyone benefits. I think that'd be something super fun and really double down on like the Diablo Immortal uniqueness. Something like that I think is really good.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because right now we basically skip the world events because they're not even, it's not even worth it. Like you go do the haunted carriage, you leave what you're doing, you meet up, you wait 5 minutes for it to start, you run through the carriage, you kill the thing. The whole process is like 15 minutes all said and done, and for what? Like a 20% chance to get a Lego? Like,
yeah, it's silly.
So yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with the world events. They could definitely, because they were a lot of fun when the game first came out, and we all thought these were worth doing. And yeah, I like your idea of having a chance to get legendary crests based on how many people are there or how well you take it down and stuff like that. That is a great idea.
Yeah, definitely a new progression system. And even something I actually mentioned the other day is like, to me, combat rating, and I know some people disagree, but combat rating in general is useless at a certain point. As soon as you have 200 above either your opponent or whatever you're fighting, you have capped the advantage of combat rating, even in PvE. And so it's like, what they should do is make it so when you get combat rating, the more combat rating you have, the more it boosts, kind of like resonance, but instead of boosting your base stats, like your damage and life, it boosts your attributes on your gear. And so now what you're incentivized to do is find the right attributes for your gear and then get combat rating. And now you have a percentage multiplier on those attributes that you've received. And it could totally change the game, because now you're like, oh, I want to grind for those triple stat legendary items. I want to grind for triple stat set items. It's the same process as like kind of what makes Diablo 3 appealing to me, at least, is like, I want to get the primals. You know, I want to get those good stats on my gear. Right now, it's like, who cares if I get a triple stat? I get 60 extra combat rating. I'm already 1,000 above my combat rating for the difficulty. I get 0 gain in PvE. So it's like, you know, there isn't an incentive for at least PvE content to grind combat rating for the most part. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but
Yep, and Diablo 3 makes that work because like as you get stronger, you can do a higher difficulty rift, and then you can do a higher difficulty greater rift, and you can get more XP, and you can keep kind of snowballing it. But here, it's like once you're hell 4, you're hell 4. You can't really like snowball extra, so there is no slow power creep like there is in Diablo 3. Which, by the way, Veiled Shot is finally a player who has tried Diablo 3 in the last few days. Has that changed your perspective at all on Diablo Immortal or anything? Because yeah, I'm a veteran on D3. I played it for like 8 years, so it's interesting to hear your thoughts on if it changed your Diablo Immortal perspective.
What else? There's a few things I actually really like about Diablo Immortal. So I'll start with the good things about Diablo Immortal over D3, and then I'll talk about D3. So Diablo Immortal, first thing, the graphical look of the game and the overall style, way better in my opinion. I think that they did a really good job. D3 is old, so I get it. I would love to see an updated D3 to Diablo Immortal standards. I think that would be awesome. Like do a D3 remastered. I think that could be super awesome. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's really nice to see all the people in the world. And so the MMO aspect, I've always been a big fan of that. D3 has that instance type game mode where you join a party and you're in that town with your group. So those are two things I think Diablo Immortal has advantages over D3. D3, on the other hand, there's obviously no pay to win. So I'll just briefly mention that, which is a huge advantage, right? That's like a big thing. And then the other thing is, I feel like the time as someone who literally was consistently 11 levels above Paragon at 20% to 10% XP consistently for 2.5 months, that time was so inefficient. Whereas in D3, you can invest that same time and I'd easily be, you know, rank 1 on the leaderboards, assuming I could play well with that same amount of time. So that's a huge upside to D3. And then the last thing is like, there's always a sense of relative progression throughout when you're playing, even for a couple hours. You know, obviously it's a lot of progression at the beginning of the game and it slows down, but it never slows down to a degree like Diablo Immortal. Like in Diablo Immortal here, you may be grinding for a whole day and you might get one piece that's a little bit like 3 or 4 more combat rating. It doesn't do anything for you. Whereas in D3, you know, you might get a whole, you know, 5-6% damage boost because you got an ancient on one of your pieces, or you may be able to just revamp your whole build because you got a whole different piece. Like that type of stuff is just regular. And I guess one other thing, just to not make this super
No, you're
long,
good. You're good. I'm enjoying listening.
Alts are extremely interesting. Right now, I'm only playing a Demon Hunter. I think it's super fun, but the fact that Paragon is account bound and that you could keep your items in the stash and, you know, you could just move gear around as you please, that is just a godsend when we're talking about like experiencing the full game. That means I could just make a monk, real quickly get him to level 70, and boom, I immediately am as strong as my Demon Hunter, assuming I was grinding for those set pieces or you know, whatever I need for that character. Really amazing system in that case. So obviously, they have a class change in Diablo, which is almost similar, but you have to grind for your legendary items all over again, and you can't do it on your other character. It just makes it a little awkward. So overall, just really enjoying D3, honestly. You know, especially since it's my, you know, first couple hours in the game, or first tens of hours in the game. Like that's something that not a lot of people can say out there. So definitely fun for me.
And we'll do a dedicated video at some point in the next week or two, and we'll really do a deep dive comparison of Diablo Immortal and Diablo 3 for those that maybe haven't played one or the other, or maybe people that like one or the other a lot more. We'll sit down and give our thoughts on it as a newer player with you and as a veteran of Diablo 3 with me, and then both of us playing Diablo Immortal super try hard. But yeah, no, you know, I guess we'll wrap up and kind of talk about how we predict the future for Diablo Immortal to go, because so basically every game that comes out that is super hype is going to have the exact same trajectory, in my opinion. When you've got like Lost Ark, New World, Diablo Immortal, all these games that are hyper souped up. They're gonna ramp up for 2 or 3 weeks, and it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be everybody's playing it, everybody's trying it out. Big content creators, Asmund Gold, all these people are covering it, giving their thoughts on it, and it's just gonna be huge. Then it's gonna start nosediving after 2 or 3 weeks, and it's gonna hit that point at 90 days where the honeymoon phase is over, and it hits a wall. And what happens at that wall? Diablo Immortal just hit that 90-day point this week. It just hit that wall, the 90-day wall, I call it. Is Diablo Immortal going to slowly fade into the night and die? Or is Diablo Immortal going to have a bright future and kind of get things right and capture some lightning in a bottle? Remains to be seen, in my opinion. I don't think we know that answer for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about the future of Diablo Immortal. I definitely agree. This game had such an artificial inflation. We're talking about Asmongold and all those people. This game had such, like, if you look at any of the analytics, and I was talking about this in one of my videos, it's so much more, like the peak is so much more than the actual player base was. Like, you had so many people looking up the game just to, you know, see all these random things and streamers and all this stuff. And so it's definitely crashed, as every game will. And I think that it's honestly probably not as crashed as hard because, again, the players that were looking up the game and checking out the game, they didn't actually play the game because they were just watching this other streamer. And I think that this game really will continue to bring in players for the future. The new players, the casual players, they're going to do that throughout the next couple of years. Their game is nowhere near close to dying. The thing that we're seeing right now is that all the veteran players that have been playing since day one are kind of dropping off the game, but the game is still bringing in new players. However, I do think that the game needs to really fulfill their promises on this major update. And depending on this major update coming up late September, it could change the landscape of the whole game. You might be able to lose a lot of your veteran players, which is kind of happening already, or you'll be able to retain all of these people, depending on how good the update is. You know, if they add, I don't know, a new dungeon, if they add a new zone, maybe like some sort of fractured plane event that's actually worth doing, some sort of something with this new event, I think that you could do some really, really nice stuff. So hopefully that's really nice, and it kind of improves all of the veteran players' experience with the game. I think that's a key feature coming up.
Yeah, you know, I've just noticed in our community, we run one of the bigger communities in Diablo Immortal, and it's getting difficult to like motivate people that have been here since the beginning. It's getting difficult to get them here and be active and compete in things. You're really having to kind of like DM people and pressure them and be like, hey, we need you here. And like, so I, you know, yeah. like you said, the people that have been here since day one are kind of starting to, I don't even know the word for it, but starting to get jaded, I guess maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And to be honest, like, as someone who, you know, does this a lot of time, I'm feeling similar in that way. Granted, I have the privilege of just being able to make content on the game, which makes the gameplay experience more fun for me. And I like class change. But for those of people who don't have class change, like they've been playing the same 4 abilities, the same builds, running in a circle with the same class for 90 days, like that is probably just a little too boring.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we'll have to stay tuned and see how things go. Like you said, we've got a big update coming here in 2 or 3 weeks, and it could change everything for the better, and we'll have to kind of keep tabs on it. But yeah, is there anything you wanted to discuss or get in there before we wrap up, or?
Pretty much. I think that's it. Definitely try out D3 if this is your introductory experience to Diablo Immortal, as I think what the CEO of Blizzard said or something like that. Go try out D3 because you'll enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, Veiled and I are kicking around the idea of doing some Diablo 3 content because we're having fun trying it out, and why not play both games, play Immortal and play Diablo 3 and really go crazy on the Diablo universe for the next year until Diablo 4 comes out or something. But yeah.
That's right.
All right, Veiled. I will link to Veiled's channel down below. Check him out as well. Cranking out Diablo Immortal content and all of that. So yeah, thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.